What's up, everyone? I'm back. I've been off for 5 days, believe it or not. I've not put out a video, done anything in 5 days. I've been out at the NAMM show. I decided to take a little break, and I'm back and ready to go. I had a great time at NAMM. It was really interesting to meet all the people that comment on here. Not all of them, but a bunch of them. And take selfies and do all that. It was fun. Did a talk at Gibson with Rhett and Dave. Did a talk at Universal Audio. Anyways, so I was talking to, I met Tosin Abasi at his guitar booth, and he mentioned to me that something about the fact that I don't sound like anybody when I play. And a lot of this stems from the posts I do on Instagram. And for those of you that don't follow me on Instagram, it's at Rick Beato 1. It's not Rick Beato, but Rick Beato 1. By the way, there's a discount code for this live stream, like I always do, RB100, 35% off. If you're gonna buy either this, or for the first time ever, I'm doing a discount code for the ear training course as well. You have to go to beatoeartraining.com, and it's going to be there's a discount with the same discount code. So my biggest post on Instagram, I do these 1 minute improvs. Most of them aren't even 1 minute, but my biggest one I've ever had is one of the weirdest ones. And it's really funny because I went and transcribed this afterwards, and I have it. I don't think I have it anywhere yet, but I have it transcribed. But I want to talk about this, about kind of what I'm doing and what I think about when I'm trying to create my own style, or what I've always tried to do, creating a style. So this weird Instagram post has a lot of chromaticism. It starts like this. I kind of learned it. I'm not sure I can quite play it right, but I'm going to try. It goes like... No, that's not right. That's right. I think that's it. So what's so weird about this? It has all these triads over bass notes. I'm sorry. That's it. Now, it's not necessarily important to learn that, but I want to talk about conceptually what I'm doing, and it really is interesting to me that people liked that. And there's the thing that's interesting about it, I was thinking about it just before I came on live. The opening idea, so I'm playing, so it's just chromatic, and this, so this is really a 3-note chromatic. It's essentially going, right? but you have octave displacement. See? Right? So that all of that is essentially using interesting intervals to create this out ethereal kind of sound. It's hard to describe, but it's it's using the chromatic scale in a in a particular way to create this ambiguous non-tonality. You might say it's atonality, but there's a certain now this is where I go into actual playing over chord progression. So I'm playing, think of D major, right? So that would be like a D major 7. Then I'm going into this G sound here. Then I'm going to D major. So I'm doing D major, or C major, I'm sorry, to D minor. And then C add 9. Then I'm doing A flat to G. Then I'm doing then a tritone of that line. Now that idea, just to me, those lines sound good. It's just something I played off the top of my head. And then the whole thing has to have a flow to it, but it's the way that these there's a guiding, you know, all the lines work within themselves to create these you know, it sounds mechanical to you, to this KM, whatever his name is, because you have a bad ear. So I banhammer people with bad ears here. No. So when I'm playing these types of ideas, though, I'm always thinking in either like these chord fragments, okay? D, G major, C major, D minor, C add 9, A flat to G. I mean, that could be an F suspended, F7, sus4. That could be B7. But the whole thing is flowing down to down to this chord. And I want to talk about these triads over bass notes. Agreed, bad ear guy. I like that. So I'm starting here, A over G sharp, and I have a simple. All right. That's what it is. So this would be like a diminished scale. I'm thinking of a sound like that with these major chords, but I have a I have the bass line moving in contrary motion. So A over G sharp, B over G, C over F sharp, then F over D, and then I go into, would be a B Lydian, then C over F, B over F, and then I do D, would be E flat over D, and this would be the same shapes. So here, I think that's what I would do. So this is the same thing as, and then, that's it. That's it. Okay, so there's really two sequences here. The first sequence is this. Okay, then I have this between them. And then I do the same sequence up a tritone. And then I end on this E flat, would be a minor 9 with a flat 6. Aeolian sound. And I end on the same chord. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. And on the same chord sound. So in developing your own vocabulary, though, this is really... I try not to play things that everyone plays. And what does that mean exactly? Well, you know, I try not to play... I mean, those are great. But people played those licks a billion times. And I forced myself 30 years ago to not play ideas like that on purpose, because I wanted to have a style that didn't really sound like that. So definitely otherworldly, Dean says. So I like to use things that have, large interval jumps, or use these mini chord progressions to solo over, or use things that aren't just, that guitar players don't typically play. It's difficult to play some things if you're playing, suspended arpeggios, for example. Or this would be a... Subi, what's up? A sound like that, instead of just straight C minor. Is to play that C minor with that flat 6. I just love those sounds. To my ear, it sounds really interesting, and it doesn't sound like what people typically play on the guitar. And the guitar, it's interesting. The guitar is really unique because there's a lot of things that are easy to play that fall right under your hands that people play all the time, and they just never get away from these things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, a lot of times I hear players and they just can be interchangeable. The most interesting playing I saw at the at NAMM was Frank Gambale. He killed it. Frank played at the Kiesel booth on a couple days ago. And Frank will intersperse blues ideas and everything, but his rhythmic ideas and his note choices are so fresh. They're just, and it's all improvised. That's the thing, is that that he really goes for it all the time. And I just find his playing style, it's the best I've heard him play. And I've heard Frank play many times. And Frank's probably, I don't know, he's probably 5 years older than me or so, 5, 6 years older than me. And he's such a great improviser. And that's really the key here, is to play things that are, to go for things that maybe are out of your comfort zone, or even to practice things that aren't typically, that don't typically fall under the fingers easy. Thank you, Jethro. Appreciate that. So if I'm playing something, you'll hear me play a lot of intervallic lines. That's why I play a lot of lines, different lines that have odd interval jumps like that. That would have fours. I just love those kind of sounds. So, but how do you do that, though? That's really the question. How do you come up with these kind of ideas? I think that one of the first things to do is get the Beato book. Actually, it doesn't come in a book. It's PDF. The discount code RB100. I got you with that. I just thought of that, actually. 35% off. If you want to support the channel, that's how you do it. But I would always practice things. I try to find things to practice and new things to practice. Practice your scales in thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths, eighths, ninths. Use spread triads. Use polychords, triads over bass notes. Everything to get out of just playing the simple blues boxes. How many times do you hear? I mean, you hear it, that stuff, so much, and anyone can play that, and it's been played to death. I forced myself out of those habits 30 years ago. I really did. And I love blues guitar. I absolutely love blues playing. It's fun to listen to, and it's great when somebody else is doing it, But but I don't want to sound like that. And players that I find interesting don't play like that, really. They don't copy other players. And I heard Kurt Rosenwinkel play, and Kurt was fantastic. And Kurt doesn't sound like anybody. That's another thing that was fascinating. And Phil X, I went to see Phil X play, and he is a killer player, and he's always improvising stuff. He just goes for things. It's always surprising what he's playing, and it's unexpected, but it's going to be exciting. And that's kind of the thing that when I'm watching somebody, I want to feel like, okay, something's going to happen here. That's really when watching Frank, what it was. Wow, what's Frank going to play next? And he keeps you on the edge of your seat. So once again, though, how do you come up with these ideas? One of the things that in my book that I did is to come up with a lot of things to practice that don't necessarily fall under the fingers. A lot of exercises, etudes, things like that aren't your typical sweep picking licks or aren't your typical blah, blah, blah. This is where that string skipping and stuff like that comes in, is where is to go beyond the things. If something falls under the fingers, if I'm playing A minor arpeggio, if If I'm playing an A minor arpeggio like that, that falls under the fingers really naturally, right? Because every note are on adjacent strings. If I played, that does not fall under the fingers naturally, right? So it's the same notes in the same position, but any 13-year-old high school kid or junior high kid can sweep pick that incredibly quickly. But if you get to just playing the line in thirds like that, that same arpeggio is far more difficult and way more interesting. That to me is cool, right? Or I just added one note to it. I put that ninth in there. So any type of intervallic ideas like that to me are interesting. Anything that's unpredictable to the ear. The ear... Anything that falls under the fingers naturally like that, to the ear sounds obvious. The ear can predict what's going to happen next. And I think that that's really where, where you can really create an interesting style is to try to play things that are unpredictable, always be practicing new things, play melodic ideas, develop them. Don't just play run-on ideas, Try to find things that don't sound like anything anyone's ever played before. When I played this, I never played that lick before I played that when I did that thing. I don't know why I played it. I just had, when I first played the first part of it, I just started playing. I was like, whoa, that is way out there. And it's funny that that's my biggest Instagram video. It's the weirdest one, but more people like that than when I played, other things. Why is that one the biggest? Why did that one connect with the most people? I mean, you never know what's going to connect with people, but probably because it sounds unlike anything else. And even the opening part, there's just a flow to it. I'm actually ghosting a bunch of notes there. I had to learn it just before this, but I thought that's, and then right into that, right? It's Rick Zappa, Stan. Those are not Zappa lines, actually, and I love Frank, but that's not a Zappa line. So that's what, in my book, in the back, I have a lot of really, like I have this thing, if you go in at page 409, outside playing over one chord. Now, this is my old Beato book that doesn't have tab in it. The new one has tab in it. But it talks about how to play these outside lines over one chord. You can get the Beato book 35% off today, RB 100. Also, the ear training course is on sale. You have to go to beatoeartraining.com, and we're having a sale there. We've never had the ear training course on sale, And if you want to develop your ear, that's how you do it. But I think a lot of the, just finding things that don't necessarily fall under the finger, that have, just things that just are not your standard licks. It was tough at first to play things that weren't, to stray away from the pentatonic scale, the blues scale. It's really was it was hard to play things because you would get in areas. I remember getting in areas of the guitar neck where I was lost. I just didn't know where to go or where I was. A lot of times it was up in this area of the guitar that I didn't know very well. And it wasn't until I practiced a lot of scales and arpeggios to get familiar with where all the notes are. Thank you, Pure Milan. That's awesome. You'll never know as much theory as Rick, but you'll learn something every day. Let me talk about this, about learning theory. You can really learn pretty much all of Western music theory in about 3 years if you study every day. If you can actually memorize it. And I had somebody ask me at NAMM, how do I know all this stuff? Some young kid asked me that. He says, it's not knowing it, it's not forgetting it. That's what I always say, right? If you learn it, you got to remember it. I guess that's part of learning it. But there's so many things that are just memorized, honestly. I started out when I never took a theory class before college. When I went to college, I never took a jazz improvisation course. So all the music theory courses I took were classical music theory. And it's not really the music theory. A lot of it is the stuff that I teach here is classical music theory. But there are many things that you don't talk about in classical music theory, like the melodic minor scale. And the melodic minor scale is melodic minor ascending with a raised sixth and raised seventh, but then descending, it's the Aeolian mode or the natural minor scale. But in jazz, we use the melodic minor scale, ascending only, right? That would be F melodic minor, and upwards and downwards. And thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. So that sound, that's a melodic minor scale. And then it was like, okay, well, what are the modes of the melodic minor? Melodic minor, Dorian flat 2, Lydian augmented, mixed Lydian sharp 11, mixed Lydian flat 6, low Korean natural 2, and altered dominant, right? So you just memorize these things. The modes of the harmonic major scale. Well, how do you memorize those? Well, you can buy my coffee mugs. I have them on there. But it's, harmonic major, Dorian flat 5, Phrygian flat 4, Lydian flat 3. But they follow patterns like that. And it's just memorizing those patterns. Harmonic major, Dorian flat 5, right? Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. So it's Dorian flat 5, Phrygian flat 4, Lydian flat 3, Mixolydian flat 2. And you're pretty much through most of them. That's it. And just knowing these things, knowing these modes, the modes of the harmonic minor scale, the modes of the major scale, it's just all memorization. That's it. You got to memorize the stuff, though. They have things called scale degree names. You've heard the dominant chord. Well, that's the 5 chord. Well, every scale degree has a name. The tonic, is the 1 chord. Supertonic's a 2 chord. Mediant is the 3 chord because it's in the middle of the dominant and the tonic, the mediant. Then the subdominant, right below the dominant, that's the 4 chord. The 5 chord is the dominant. 6 chord is the submediant. And then you have the 7 chord, the leading tone. It's leading. It's a half step below the tonic again. So knowing those are called your scale degree names, right? So that's another thing that you memorize. That's all it is memorizing it. Then you say, okay, in a major key, 1, 4, and 5 triads are major, 2, 3, and 6 are minor, and 7's diminished. If you make them 7th chords, 1 and 4 are major 7th, 2, 3, and 6 are minor 7th. The 5 chord is a dominant 7th, meaning, like a G7 in the key of C, right? And the chord built on the 7th scale degree in the key of C is B minor 7 flat 5. And so that the 7th chords in a major key always follow the same pattern. The 7th chords in melodic minor always follow the same pattern. And harmonic minor, they're different chords for each scale, but they always follow the same pattern. Once you memorize them, you know them forever, hopefully, if you don't have to keep rememorizing them. It's the same thing with ear training, right? Knowing ba ba. Well, what an interval is that? Well, if you think da 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 da, okay, that's a perfect fourth. You may have that you say "Here Comes the Bride's" a perfect fourth, or you may just recognize da da is a perfect fourth, right? Everybody has their own way to learn these things and to memorize them. Some people will use mnemonic devices. They will use. There's many memorization techniques to memorize these. The thing that I memorized, every mode that, there's always a basis of things to know. Once you know the major modes, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, when I did the harmonic major, understanding that pattern, that there's a certain order, and I go harmonic major, Dorian flat 5, Phrygian flat 4, Lydian flat 3, Mixolydian flat 2. So you have those. You have Dorian, so you have Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian right in a row. Okay? And so that's a pattern to remember. And there are so many patterns in these things that just are always the same. The circle of fifths, memorizing what that pattern is, the order of sharps and flats, memorizing what that is. There is no shortcut to memorizing things, though. That's why it's that's the thing that's on you guys to do, though. Everyone has their own way of doing it. You got to commit some stuff to memory, just like you have to commit things to memory under your fingers. I didn't know this part of the neck up here for a long time. It took me a while. It wasn't until I started playing jazz and started playing in the key of A flat a lot, because you have tunes like All the Things You Are. So playing in this area, because of All the Things You Are, was a really great thing. Then I have to go to C major, and I think, okay, where's C major? So there's C major there, there's A flat major there, there's G major here. Knowing where all these things are, there's my G major there, right? There's B major here. And eventually, from practicing all these things, that all falls onto your fingers. Evan says the piano is the best way to visualize music. Piano is a great way of visualizing music, but what you need to be able to do is to recognize things by ear. You have to know that sound is a major 7th sound. This is a minor 7th sound. This would be a minor 11th sound. This would be an augmented major 7th sound. All of these things are things that you should be able to recognize. Maybe not augmented major 7th right off the bat, but definitely, a minor 9 sound, dominant 7 sharp 9 sound, major 9 chord. There's your dominant 7 sharp 9, or dominant 7, flat 9, flat 5. When I hear any of these chords, I know exactly what they are. I don't have perfect pitch. I just recognize them from figuring out so many things. You know, if I were to ask my son Dylan, he'd tell me what they are. Well, you're playing, you know, B flat over E. But I can see I've got B flat major triad with E in the bass. But it's like, well, okay, what sound fits over there, right? That's one of the ones that can fit over that, or so if I play that chord, there's a few different scales there. Or I can use right? I play two different scales over that, but there's multiple scales that will work over that. That's a B flat major over E, or an E7 flat 9 flat 5, right? I could play B flat Lydian over it. Right? It sounds cool like that. I'm just playing. B flat major and C major over it. I love that sound though. That's a great sound to me. That's a totally different kind of sound from that diminished sound. And it brings out a different flavor to the ear, right? Anyways, so RB100, 35% off. That's the biggest discount I ever do on my book. There's many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples. Be out of ear training course to be able to recognize these things, being able to hear intervals, being able to hear triads, being able to hear seventh chords, whether it's a dominant seventh with a flat 9, a dominant seventh with a sus4, a minor add 9 chord. You should be able to recognize all of these things by ear, so that when you're figuring something out, you should say, oh, I know that. Oh, I know that. Oh, I know that. I know that. I know that. I know that. And then you start figuring out what the relative distance between them is. So that's part of this whole thing of learning the theory, is being able to have it in your ear so that you can get it out on your instrument, whatever your instrument is. If I'm playing something on the keyboard or playing something on the guitar, it shouldn't matter at all. You should be able to find, if you know what the notes are and where those interval relationships are, you should be able to play them. It should be no problem. Anyhow, follow me on Instagram at RickBeato1. I do a lot more guitar playing over there because I pretty much put daily posts of that. I know some of you don't like Instagram, but you should get it anyways to follow me there. There's some great Instagram people. Emerson, if you have the Beato Book 2.0, write to me and I'll send you the upgrade link. By the way, these are 8s on this guitar. I'm going to do a video on how the strings, the gauge of strings affects your tone. Affects your tone in a big way. I met with 5 famous amp builders last week. Michael Soldano, Dave Friedman, who makes Friedman amps, Joe Morgan, that makes Morgan amps. This was really fascinating, and we talked about all these different things relating to tone and string gauge and everything like that. And I have a really great, Dave Friedman gave me a great idea for a video. Coupon code is RB100. You guys are the best. Be coming back with my Steve Vai interview in the next day or so. Thank you so much. We'll see you later.